Hello, everyone. My name is Eric, and today I'm joined with a very special guest, musician, artist, and game designer Clipper Arnold. He is a lead designer at Polyhedra Games, a Brooklyn based independent game publisher and creator of the tabletop role playing game Justice Velocity. And most recently, he released the PLAGUED CRYPT of HELVETE, a one shot third party adventure meant to introduce players to the role playing game MORK BORG. A complete Justice Velocity campaign is actually prominently featured on the DieCat channel. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and check it out. It's in the link below. Clipper, thanks for being here, man.
Hey, how's it going? How are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I just got out of work a little while ago, so
Oh, nice.
ready to jump into some RPG shenanigans here.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm excited because I hear something new is coming down the pipe, yeah?
Yeah, we're currently running the Kickstarter for Nebula Chaos. I think it's just over 60 something percent funded. It's got 20 days left to go. And it is a sci-fi space opera inspired tabletop RPG meant to give you that same rush of adrenaline as Justice Velocity, 2d6 based, laser sword, swashbuckling, googly-eyed alien, space portals, and all that stuff. So looking forward to talking about that a little bit more today.
Well, full disclosure here, I was like kind of clued into this a long time ago when you were just kind of like rolling around the idea of Nebula Chaos. And so I was kind of like, interesting. That's quite the jump from action movie universe based, like Justice Velocity, which was your first game. What exactly made you want to take the leap to like a spacefaring adventure?
So actually for viewers at home, Eric, you were actually in the initial playtests of Nebula Chaos. It was right after lockdown, I believe. I think we were doing like 2 or 3 sessions a week. It was wild, probably too much at the time.
Oh my God. Dude, you just unlocked lost memories. Jesus, maybe just bad memories. But yeah, I totally remember that. Me and JD and stuff.
I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a good escape from all the horror outside. Yeah, I remember just like I was still going into work at the time and I was like writing up stuff for our sessions that we would play like a couple times a week. But yeah, what made me want to make the leap here? Well, so I guess we can backtrack. So Justice Velocity is actually based off of a game system that I've been working on for about the better part of a decade, maybe over a decade now.
Wow.
It started with a game called Death City. I would play it in college with my friends. Basically, I had a lot of friends who were like casually into gaming and like played more video games and were interested in RPGs, but every time I was like, "Hey, there's this cool RPG, do you want to play?" And it would be like 300 pages to read, like an hour or so of character creation, which is great. It's wonderful. But, sometimes when you're bringing new people to the table and they don't know what they're in for, that's quite a task to set. So I wanted to run an urban fantasy game. So I drew together the idea for Death City, and we played that for a number of years. Like I said, that's an urban fantasy game, so it's more like vampires and werewolves and demons and stuff like that. But it was all built off of that 2d6 system of quick character creation, like 10 to 15 minutes to get up and running, just getting people right into the dice rolling and role playing as much as possible. So it's not quite as complex as other RPG systems, but it's also not like the lightest rule set possible. It's kind of hits like a nice intermediary. Like we kind of call it, this is just like a buzzword, but we call it like cinematic style role playing because it's meant to be light enough on rules that you can get into the action and do whatever you want. So that being said, the origin story of Justice Velocity was my friends and I saw a Fast and Furious movie a few years ago. We drank too many margaritas before we went, and I was just like really inspired about how to translate that into a tabletop RPG. And my friend was showing me this random action movie name generator, and Justice Velocity was one of the names on there. And it was just so like so goofy and brilliant. I was like, all right, we got to make this happen. So we sat down at the table, drew up some buff characters and stuff like that. And that's sort of where Justice Velocity came from. So like Death City has yet to be released. I want to start putting that together soon. But I've run some iteration of this rule system off and on throughout, like I said, the last 10 years. And Nebula Chaos kind of has a similar origin story. Basically, when I first moved to New York a few years ago, I was doodling a bunch of little aliens and spaceships and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I really want to play a sci-fi RPG soon. So I started looking into what was available. Just nothing really quite hit all the notes that I was looking for. Like I wanted it to be quick paced. I wanted it to be goofy and like not super realistic. and I wanted to like be able to make it move quickly. Since I couldn't find anything that was really hitting all of those needs, I said, hey, I already have an RPG system. I might as well make my adaptation and then I can do whatever I want with it. So that's kind of where the genesis of this was born, was just out of boredom on planes and trains and automobiles, drawing little goofy aliens and trying to see how I could jam them into a role-playing game. And so that's kind of where it began. And then obviously, you know, you were there for the playtests at the beginning of lockdown. It's progressed quite a bit since then. I've played a few campaigns of it, quite a few sessions of it. Some of the artists that we've worked with, like Logan Stahl, has done a great job of translating those little doodles into fully fledged and fully rendered characters. Anders Carlson, who did the Justice Velocity art, made the cover art for the alpha of the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with the little lizard guy smoking a cigarette on the cover.
Yeah.
Metacomic Studios did some of the other art as well. And they actually did the comic at the beginning of the Plagued Crypt of Helvete.
Oh, snap. Okay. Wow. I always thought it was only like a one artist. That's incredible. That's quite a bit of people working behind the scenes I'd never even heard of.
Yeah, and a lot of these people I have kind of a history with. Anders, he did all the Justice Velocity art, but he's also worked with me on a few other game projects. Some of them have not been published yet. But he also did some artwork for Red Tank, which is my band, like album art and comics and stuff like that. I've done a few things with Metacomic Studios. This is my first time working with Logan Stahl. He's really great. All of his art is really amazing. And this is kind of his niche, sci-fi, space opera, science fantasy kind of stuff.
Oh, dude, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the art for Justice Velocity is so good. I don't know if I feel kind of bad for saying this, but I also don't. But hear me out, right? So I do this frequently with a lot of my role-playing game books. The art is so beautiful that I want to look at it, but like, you know, it's in a book form and it's usually closed on my desk, so I can't see it. So I actually took Justice Velocity and I like got my X-Acto knife and I cut out all the art, dude.
That's amazing.
I made a collage. I put it in nice frames. It's huge frame in my room. So that way every day when I wake up and go to bed, I get to stand in front of this giant collage of just art of Justice Velocity.
That's really amazing. I didn't know that. That's really tight.
Yeah, I did it a long time ago, like back when I was just really bored on a weekend. I was like, you know what? I could do it. And I just yeah, it turned out really well. I enjoyed it a lot.
But yeah, I got to tell that to Anders too. I'm sure he'll be enthused. Yeah, a lot of people really enjoyed that art. Yeah, but I think the art in this is really good so far. You know, a lot of the funding is going to go towards getting more art as well. And like the more that we get, the more that we get to work with. Like that was kind of the thing with MORK BORG as well, was we set our funding goals so low and then it just ended up being like way more successful than we thought it would be. So I actually got a chance to work with quite a number of artists beyond what we had initially scoped for in order to put more content into the book. So I'm hoping we'll get enough to kind of like do as much art as we want to do and more with this one.
Since you did so much art with the Plagued Crypt of Helvete, I'm curious, are you going to also do some like, the Plagued Crypt of Helvete has like a comic tied into it. I'm curious if you plan to do anything like that for Nebula Chaos.
You know, at this point, we don't have any immediate plans for it, but that's definitely something that I'd be interested in doing. I think with this one, the focus is more, since it's like full color premium printing, we just want to put as much art as possible in there. And I really, really want to do as much art as possible for all the different planets. And there's like 16 different alien species. We want to get character art for all of those, do like a map and everything too. You know, since it's full color, we really want to use that to our advantage. And that was kind of a bit what the MORK BORG module was about, was taking that leap into full color, because it's a different process, different pricing, different production.
Oh, okay. No, that totally makes sense. Yeah, I had no idea you had like that many different like species. I was going to say, I'm assuming they're all playable, but then again, they could be very easily. So that's crazy, man. That's wild.
Oh yeah, they are all playable. But that's the thing too, is it's like, in order to make a species playable in Nebula Chaos, since it's a classless and like speciesless system, essentially, all of the alien species, they just have a little write-up on what they are, and then like suggested traits or abilities and stuff. Okay, so for instance, for the extraterrestrials, which are like the aliens, just says a cold-blooded and warm-hearted reptile-like alien species. Recommended natural buffness, poison spray, infrared vision. So not all extraterrestrials will have all of those abilities, but those are sort of like recommended as like recurring themes amongst extraterrestrials. Another one is like Scorvillians, which are kind of like the space lion type dudes. It says a typically strong and proud mammalian warrior species. Many are beam resistant and bounty hunters. So recommended abilities are like durable skin or infrared vision. It's basically like there's some stuff that's recommended, but you don't necessarily have to take that. So like if you're playing a robot character, for example, they're called bots in Nebula Chaos. Bots are robots, androids, and cyborgs. Oh my, this is a general term to refer to electromechanical beings of one stripe or another. Recommended natural buffness and or exoskeletal structure. And so that's basically just trying to like convey that since you're made of metal that they're, typically have some sort of damage resistance. But if you choose not to take that, that might just mean that you're a little robot or a robot with like frail casing or something. Anything that sort of lets the narrative sing is sort of what that's meant to enhance,
Oh, yeah, like made of plastic instead of titanium or something. Yeah, I gotcha.
But yeah, some of the other aliens in here are pretty wacky. There's one called Cerebella, which are just a floating brain species. There's arachnoids, which a lot of people, I think this confuses a lot of people. They're aliens with spider faces. And that doesn't mean like their heads are spider heads. It means their heads are literally spiders. 8 legs coming out of their face. I'm looking forward to getting that one drawn up as well. And then, bugs, slugs, reptiles, greys. I love the greys.
Dude, I love the greys so much.
Just like swaggy aliens, inspired by like 90s alien iconography.
Dude, every time we're doing like a demo game of Nebula Chaos and there's like greys and you're like the DM, it's just the funniest shit ever. Oh my God.
They're so fun.
They really are. Next time we do a demo game, I want to play a gray because I could just cut loose. Holy crap.
Yeah, I think I posted some of the Nebula Chaos art somewhere and someone was like, is that a gray wearing a hoodie? And I'm like, yeah, it's a short-sleeved hoodie, actually. And he just has like Reeboks on and headphones and stuff. Everything about Nebula Chaos is supposed to be kind of over-the-top sci-fi action stuff. When we first started making it, I think I described it to someone as like, I want to do Mass Effect meets Futurama kind of thing.
Oh.
Where it's just everything so like beautiful and pulpy and cool about sci-fi, like put in a blender. So it has like distinctive character. The home setting is just as an example. Like I'm putting a lot of effort into the lore and the alien species and stuff, but of course it's made in a way that you can use it to run whatever sci-fi game you want to run. I will say, it may not be best for like super hardcore sci-fi, like super high science sci-fi. For everything up to that, I think it should handle pretty well, especially for like, one-shots, short campaigns, stuff like that. It's kind of built for one-shots and short campaigns, but that being said, I've run campaigns of Justice Velocity that are like 60 sessions or so. It just depends on how you run it, who all is interested, and how much you divvy up that AP, I guess.
Yeah, that's incredible. I hope to get there one day, man. If there's a will, there's a way. I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm going to admit something to you here right now. I absolutely hate sci-fi, space, like Star Trek, Star Wars, anything related to space. The only thing I actually kind of like about space is like the first Alien movie. I like that for the aspect of it being more or less the horror side, not so much the sci-fi, because I've just never been a sci-fi guy. Because when you first told me about your idea of making it like a space one, I was like, ugh. But after you kind of like told me how it works and just like told me about like the races and how like you can kind of play it fast and loose. And again, it's very similar to Justice Velocity and just how much quick, fast-paced fun you can kind of just jump in and do it. Immediately, I was like already thinking of like a whole campaign and like all these different scenarios. I have seen a lot of space media and movies and stuff like that over my course of my life. There is a lot of stuff I do like, but it's the small moments throughout those giant epic adventures they have in space. So it's nice for me that I get to just like pick and choose what I want out of my own space thing. And it's not like this great grandiose encyclopedia of every star has billions of stars, which all have their own story and lore. Like I'm glad it's definitely more my speed and how it's just like, yeah, jump in, have fun. I've watched a lot of space anime and I kind of enjoy that quite a bit. So like Space Dandy, I think is a big part. Like it's one of my favorites.
Cowboy Bebop, obviously, right?
Oh my God, Cowboy Bebop. Yes, I binge watched that like over and over like 3 months ago. Yes, that's a huge one for me. That's so crazy. I didn't even freaking make that comparison that Cowboy Bebop is like a space anime. That's so weird.
That's the thing is like Cowboy Bebop isn't hard sci-fi. It's more about cool characters that just so happen to be in space, right? As a product of that, you get cool spaceship scenes and cool like zero grav scenes and stuff like that too. I mean, I love a lot of different types of sci-fi, but I think with this system and with like Justice Velocity, like there's something about not taking it too seriously that gives people visually and through the writing a license to do whatever they want with it. And the way that it leans towards is more pulpy, like do what you want, rule of cool kind of stuff. But, you know, every table's different. I hope that what just gets conveyed is that there isn't one way to do it, that you can do whatever you want to do that makes it cool and fun for you and the players, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and what's cool and fun for me is I don't know, just what I put in the book, I guess. Yeah, when I was like 8, my dad handed me the trilogy box set of Star Wars, and I watched all of that in one sitting. So that was pretty wild. And then I remember Wrath of Khan, a Star Trek movie. There's one scene in the beginning where the guy like puts a space worm in this guy's ear to like torture him.
Oh, what?
And I just like ran out of the room screaming when I was a kid. And I didn't watch that until, I don't know, I was like 18 or something. And it wasn't that scary in retrospect, but at the time I just thought that was horrifying. But yeah, I mean, like Cowboy Bebop is great, Firefly's great. I haven't seen a lot of Star Trek, but I've liked some of what I've seen of that. Futurama is definitely a big thing, especially like the early seasons, how they just had this way of like riffing on sci-fi tropes like AI and like unexplored galaxies and stuff like that. Heavy Metal is a really big one. That's like sci-fi and fantasy magazine from like I think it's like the 70s and 80s. But Mobius is like the main artist in Heavy Metal. There's plenty of others, but he's like the big name that everyone knows. I actually have a tattoo of his on my arm. But
Whoa.
it's all about like cool, weird sci-fi and fantasy. Space Riders, it's really good. That's like a comic by Alexis Zirit. It's like everything you think you know about sci-fi is like Space Riders is just that, but way over the top. It's just psychedelic, technicolor, absurd. Like there's like people are bounty hunters, but they ride around on like motorcycle spaceships and like floating skulls and stuff. It's just super cool.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Okay, that's pretty sick. Like the big reason why, like, or one of the big reasons why I'm not like a huge thing of sci-fi is because when I was really young, my parents took me to go see. I don't even think I personally wanted to go see them. My parents took us all to go see like all the Star Wars prequels. Where like at the beginning they were like tax federation, you know, the space taxes and all that, and it was just like really slow. And I was like, what is this like space politics? Like I was like a child though, you know what I mean? But all the moments where they were doing like floating taxi jumping and all that stuff, that was like burning in my brain, which is like the best stuff ever. And like I get a flash of that whenever like we did one of our early demo games with Nebula Chaos.
Oh yeah, when we were ripping off Fifth Element.
Yes, exactly. We legit did that, and I was just like, dude, this is so sick. I was playing like a 20-year-old British doctor who's like on the run from like debt collectors because like I think he just didn't pay his like student loans. I had a grappling hook, and I was like, what use am I gonna do for a grappling hook? And then like we end up getting in this, you know, flying highway heist. Turns out the grappling hook is like the savior of the day, and I'm just zipping around all these different cars, and it was so good.
Yeah, I love that game. I remember too, JD, we had given him like a phasing suit. I had forgotten about it, and then we were in this like hover car chase scene, and he's like, "Oh, can I use my phasing suit to phase through?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." Exactly. Yeah, that's what it's for. And like, yeah, so we had people just like grappling around, phasing through. Yeah, that was a great session. I really love that. If every session could be like that, oh, yeah.
No, yeah, you really set the tone with that one. I think within that very first session, within like the first 30 minutes, we're in a bar. There's all these colorful characters. And then like out of nowhere, I think a spaceship just like crashed through the ceiling in the fucking bar.
Oh yeah, in session 0.
Yeah.
So you know how in D&D there's that trope of all the characters start in a tavern?
Hmm.
and like they get a quest from like a mysterious hooded figure or whatever.
Yeah.
I was trying to like, okay, same thing, but you're in a space bar and there's all these people you can talk to, and whatever path you take will be determined by, you know, how you're interacting with these people and who you choose to talk to. And then I think towards the end of it, like we were talking about this like mysterious bounty hunter and he kept coming up. So he just like crashed into the bar and like started capturing a bunch of people and stuff like that.
Oh, that's right.
But he was like super high power level. I think it was like if you guys tried to fight him then and there, it would have been a problem. But I think the first session after that was you guys went to a robot factory to retrieve a princess's lost puppy.
Yes, we did.
The puppy he had like the Men in Black type little marble thing around his collar, which was like a key. And the princess was like the leader of this resistance movement and stuff like that. And it turned into this whole thing. I mean, one of the things with sci-fi too is like space is so big. Like, and the way that we were running that campaign, I remember was like really character driven. Oh, that's the thing I wanted to say too. Even in that session we were just talking about, like I didn't plan for half of that to happen with the hover car chasing and everything.
Oh, whoa.
I mean, I didn't remember I gave you guys grappling hooks and phasing suits. It's just, you know, that's a mechanic of the game that ended up being used to really fun effect by the players. And I just happened to like set up the scene. I think that's what made that such a fun tabletop moment is like, that's when everything works, is when, you know, the rules work, the game master is doing their job and the players are doing what they want to do. And like everything just like kind of rolls together.
Same thing happened with Justice Velocity too. It was from start to finish, it was genuinely like a blast.
Yeah, and there's something about a chase scene too that just gets people going. Like I think that's one of the best sessions on your channel is the chase scene with the fruit carts and like donkeys and like
they drove through a farmer's market while being chased by like an enemy rival racing gang.
Yeah, and that was just so visceral and it felt like everything was happening. That's like one of the things where it's like I feel like the chase rules are maybe underutilized in a lot of games of Justice Velocity that I've seen, but when people run them, it's fucking great. It's all there, you know? I don't think every session can be a chase scene, but I do think it's one of those like little built-in things that the rules really can help people on a lot.
Absolutely. And speaking of chase scenes, I think you are also working on like a new system in Nebula Chaos, which has something to do with like space battle, right?
Yeah, so I'm actually, to be honest, in the midst of reworking a lot of that. But yeah, so it will have a lot of the vehicle rules from Justice Velocity that comes packaged with it. But, you know, in a sci-fi space opera game, what do you need?
Spaceship battles.
You gotta have them, am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's some spaceship rules. The main thing is like with Justice Velocity, right? We're trying to keep it at that right level where it's simple enough to follow and run and keep up with, but not too complex to where it becomes just like this its own like mini game. That's kind of what we're doing with the spaceship rules too. So like instead of classifying each ship as like a freighter or capital ship or a carrier or whatever, it's just small, medium, or large, and then small covers everything from like hoverboards to small starfighters, and then medium is like transport ships that can carry smaller vessels, and then large is like anything from like a large destroyer to like a capital ship. And it's just one of those like little things that helps keep moving the rules along. Like scale is always an issue, but this is meant to like compensate for that in some ways. We are like simplifying the spaceship battle rules to just like close, medium, and far kind of thing. And then there are going to be optional rules for like if you're running it on like a grid. Those can get a little bit more complex, but depending on if that's what people want to do, those rules are also there as well.
I like that you give people the option. I like options myself, so.
That was kind of the thing about Justice Velocity, right? Was like there's so many different uses for vehicles in an action movie game, right? Sometimes you're doing drag races. Sometimes you're doing like the full-on race sequence at the beginning of Fast and Furious. And then sometimes you're just using a car to like crash through a bank and get your people out, you know? And those are all very different mechanically oriented sequences, right? Especially in an RPG. So when I was running the game originally, I kept using different rules and everyone was like so confused. And then I was like, okay, all these rules are not wrong. They're actually good, but we just need to make it so that they can be quickly and easily communicated to both players and GMs. Because like you want to know if you're winning or if you're like doing what's going to help you out, right? And I think part of that is like being able to quickly and effectively communicate or represent those things. But having different modular rules for different sequences also gives you the best tools to fit that sequence for what it needs, you know? And that's kind of the thing with the spaceships too. All the vehicle rules from Justice Velocity are there, so you can do spaceship drag races or like pod racing, I guess, if you want to, or you know, drift in like a spaceship if you want to. But it's also like there if you just need a spaceship for like an action sequence, and then there's like full-on spaceship combat at like a grid-based level or at more of a general strokes level if you're doing like theater of the mind kind of thing or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Man, I'm really excited to get my hands on the space battle stuff. Because again, like for me, thinking about it now even more, it was always more interesting whenever like in space media, whenever people were like on a planet doing stuff. And then like as a child, you know, it's like whenever people went into space, it was like, oh, that's when it gets boring though. They're just in space. I think because I had such a huge grudge against space media and like as a child and like how I just, you know, as I formed into an adult, as an adult, I kind of just, it never was put in front of me to like interact with. Now that I have my own choice, what media to interact with and like consume. But now that like, you know, I'm getting to see the Nebula Chaos and my other friends are like, hey, check out this space movie. It's not like anything you've ever seen before. It's like, okay, well, now that I have my own control and like, you know, a fully fledged brain, as an adult, it's like, I want to take this and I want to see how I put my spin on this. Every time I think I'm like thinking about like Nebula Chaos campaign. Like you said, it's like a mixture of like everything space, but just cool for me. And now I want to do it. I want to go into space now. I want to do everything.
I think that's great. I mean, just going back a little bit, that's kind of what it's built for, right? Because like that was the biggest kick that I got out of RPGs when I was a kid was like coming to a table, doodling up some cool monsters, and making a story with your friends. And that's really empowering through creativity and everything like that. And so a lot of the rules that we try to cultivate is trying to give people that same feeling. So I'm also a musician, and there's a whole thing about like DIY attitudes and like what you can do on your own. And like there's a lot of opinions on it, but I think at a base level, really empowering people through their own creativity is like a really fun and exciting thing. And it just feels cool when you get to do something to your own aesthetic on your own terms with people who share those goals and share those aesthetics and are fun to hang out with. Like in punk music, right? Sometimes all you really need to make a good song is like 3 power chords and a loud amp. And so we're just trying to supply the loud amp and the power chords, I guess.
Yo, that's like the sickest thing I've heard in a long time. Holy shit. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what kind of comes. I'm pretty sure, just like Justice Velocity, I think I'm going to end up running a campaign of Nebula Chaos when it launches on the channel too. Even if I have to solo it. Probably not though. I think I have like a really close-knit group of people that are going to be super down. The same people who play Justice Velocity. So basically all I got to say is like, dude, guys, remember JV? Let's play Nebula Chaos. See, they put out another game. And we're going to have something, I think we're going to have something equally as amazing, if not more amazing on the channel with Nebula Chaos when it launches. But I did want to ask you, because I saw on your Instagram, you posted something about you guys launching the Polyhedra Core license. What's that about?
Yeah, so that's basically our third-party license. Basically, what I was saying before is this rule system, I've used it for a lot of different games. It's very adaptable, it's very quick and easy, and it's easy to make stuff for. And so I just wanted to kind of open the door for people to do with it whatever they want to do with it. There's kind of a long history of tabletop RPGs having open licenses like this. Like you can look at the open gaming license from Wizards, or MORK BORG has a third-party license. A lot of people know about Powered by the Apocalypse, pretty popular system. So this is just sort of like our take on that, just letting people use the tools that we've put together to make their own modules, adventures, games, or what have you. I will say we don't have a systems reference document as of yet. People have asked me about that. We are putting together a Polyhedra Games core rulebook, which we don't have a release date yet. It's going to come sometime in the future, but that'll be sort of like a general system agnostic kind of thing. And in the meantime, we're just encouraging people to use Justice Velocity as a starting point or Nebula Chaos when it comes out.
Oh, okay. So this means that I could packaged together Lau's retirement, which, if anyone's curious, Lau's retirement is the title of the campaign that's on the channel for Justice Velocity. So that means that I could package that together. I'm not the most savvy with like packaging things like that, but like I could make a Word document, I guess, with my whole campaign. Well, now I'm thinking now, because you're talking about like art, stuff like I have an artist friend who does the art for the channel. I could maybe commission him to do some art for like the little module that people can play.
Yeah, that's basically what it's for. So you could put it together, release it. You can, charge for it if you want to. There's no limits on that. There are a few restrictions, like you just can't use our logos, or I think it's like you can't use certain types of text from the rulebook. But basically, you can use runs on Polyhedra core system logo that we have, and you could market it as something that's compatible with Justice Velocity and release it as your own adventure. And then I think there's just like some legal text that you need to put.
That's so cool. Okay, whoa. You know what's even cool is that it's actually kind of tied to a lot of my tabletop simulator maps. I should go back and like make them all pretty and somehow like link it to that too. That way people can use the maps as well if and when they, play the damn campaign. That'd be so sick.
I think that'd be really cool. I would encourage you to do all of that.
All right. It's on the list, the ever-growing list. But no, that's been a big one for me. Like now I can actually just like officially release it, and that'd be so fucking cool. Okay, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I think I have to get that core document up and running sooner rather than later too, just to give people more to work with. Because we kind of put this together just as a way of introducing people to the system as a whole, since it's the second entry that's being publicly released. I want to put the Polyhedra core system together as like a book that people can use for anything. And then I do want to put Death City together finally as well, because I've been working on that in some way, shape, or form for like a decade. Basically the same system, but like a urban fantasy type of thing. So,
well, I mean, whenever you do get updates for this stuff, I imagine you're going to post them on your Instagram, I'm assuming? That way people can just have a live update on when this new stuff kind of comes out.
Yeah, people can follow us on social media at Polyhedra Games on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can also check out our website, polyhedragames.com. We will post articles and updates on there from time to time. And yeah, check out the Nebula Chaos Kickstarter.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I always follow you through Instagram, so that's kind of how I keep up to date. But yeah, everything he mentioned is going to be linked below in the description of this video. So check it out, please. And I already made my contribution, and I look forward to playing Nebula Chaos. So I want to go to space. Oh, speaking of which, though, before we go, there's been something that I've always wanted to run on the channel, because every time you just radiate that. I mean, you're in a fucking band called the Red Tank, for fuck's sake. Like, your brother, a while back, he released, well, I believe like you kind of all did it, but like he kind of spearheaded that, right? Like Tourmaline Valley Tritonia for D&D?
Yeah, so he went on tour with us a few times, but he's also like obviously really into music and like indie music and punk music and DIY stuff. So he put together a 5th edition adventure called Tourmaline Valley Tritonia. It's basically a traveling band in like a fantasy world, like on tour and stuff. It's really cool. There's lots of like little music call outs, and there's like a band name generator and stuff like that. That's really fun. He put that together and sort of like did project lead on it. I just helped him do some of the promotion and publishing on it. But yeah, we have that up on our Drive-Thru RPG store in PDF. I think it's only like a few bucks.
I think it's like $2 or $3. Don't quote me, but yeah, it's no more than $4 or $5.
So yeah, I would encourage everyone to check that out. It's like lots of music puns. It's in 5e, so a lot of people will be pretty familiar with the system.
Hell yeah, man. I've been really meaning to also, like, as another thing I want to do, again, it's like I want to commission my artist friend to just draw like the most gnarliest D&D rock and roll motherfuckers. Just I want to be able to just like cut loose and just go wild with it. It reminded me like Scott Pilgrim a little bit, so I kind of wanted to like just hit it hard with like Scott Pilgrim-esque vibes to it. When I run the campaign.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common vibe that people get from this one.
Fuck yeah.
So I'm glad you picked up on that.
That's so cool. Okay.
I should say also MORK BORG Plagued CRYPT of Helvete, for anyone who missed the Kickstarter, is also getting a digital and physical release this month. So look out for that.
Oh man. Okay, I'm excited. Dude, you spoil me. Once again, you have been listening to me, Eric, and my special guest, who is a musician, artist, and game designer, Clipper Arnold, who is the lead designer at Polyhedra Games, a Brooklyn-based independent game publisher and creator of tabletop role-playing games such as Justice Velocity and Nebula Chaos. Clipper, thank you so much for coming out on the internet and hanging out with me virtually, dude.
Yeah, of course. It's been a wonderful pleasure as always.
All right, man. Have a good one.